Okay, cloud gurus. Kubernetes is all about cloud native, yeah? I've banged that drum for long enough. Well, a major force driving cloud native is containers. I mean, there's serverless and other stuff as well, right? But containers are the poster child for cloud native. Only, shock horror, Kubernetes doesn't run containers. Or at least it doesn't run them directly. It wraps them in a high-level construct called a pod. So think of it like this. The atomic unit for a virtualization environment is the VM, while the atomic unit for a Kubernetes environment is the pod. So the smallest thing you can deploy on a Kubernetes cluster is a pod, but inside of each pod is one or more containers. Anyway, application code exists in containers and containers run in pods on Kubernetes. Well, the pod is an object on the cluster, and it's defined in the API as a resource under the core API group. But pods on their own don't give us a great deal, so we wrap them in a higher level object called a deployment. This again is an object on the cluster, and it's a resource in the apps API group. Now, the whole idea of deployments is to make pods cool. Well, it's not really. It's to make them scalable, making rolling updates and rollbacks simple, and a ton of other cool stuff. So, kinda cool, but really it's about being flexible and more useful. So, pods and deployments exist in the API. They can be deployed on the cluster as objects, and they're two of the key primitives that make Kubernetes an ideal platform for cloud-native microservices apps. Now, deployments are great for scaling and updates, but other objects exist for wrapping your pods. So, daemon sets make sure that one and only one of a specific pod will run on every worker in the cluster. And then we've got stateful sets for pods or parts of your application with particular stateful requirements. But away from wrapping and adding to pods, there's even more. Secrets, volumes, load balancers, you name it, right? They're all resources in the API and they get deployed on the cluster as objects. Now, I could talk all day about stuff like this, and I'm giving you this primer in case you're new to it all. But I'm also conscious of time and that some folks already know it, so I'm going to park it there. If you need more, check out my book. I cover all the basics you'll need in there. Time to move on though. Next up, we're going to look at a few quick ways to get a cluster up and running. And actually, if you're already cool with this, feel free to give it a miss and skip right over.